cheaper.
You are unmuted.
Is it hot chocolate?
All right, so it is 5:30, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Cassie, if you would lead us through roll call.
Sandy Folk. Here. Julie Owens.
Here.
Shelby Poole.
Here.
Ryan Sheik.
Here.
Natalie Schober. Here. Jolene Squirtle.
Here.
Rich Washington.
Here.
All right, and Natalie, if you will lead us our mission and vision.
The mission of WLA is to utilize leadership-based programs and strategies grounded in solid research combined with the demonstrated success of core knowledge curriculum as a basis of a rigorous overall educational program that builds strong skills in math, reading, literature, writing, music, science, and technology. The vision of WLA is to be a school where students and graduates become exceptional leaders and are prepared to take on the academic and leadership challenges they will face in high school and beyond.
Thank you. All right, I would like to make a motion to approve our meeting agenda.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve our agenda. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. And then I would like to entertain a motion to approve the February 27th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the February 27th meeting minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed say no. Any abstentions?
Do I have to abstain? I wasn't there.
You could.
Right. Okay, I'll abstain.
So Natalie is abstaining from that vote. Motion still carries. Is there any conflict of interest to declare this evening? All right, we will go ahead and move on to our public comment. We will start with Tammy Strong.
I wrote this all down because I'm not a public speaker. I'm a parent of a second grader here at WLA. Since day one, I have been against this merger for one particular reason, but over time, I have found many reasons that I don't think this merger is a good fit for WLA. One, the curriculum and homework. Even though WLA has a rigorous curriculum, we believe in balance. We are building our kids not only to be academically successful, but also all around successful human beings by encouraging family time, extracurricular activities, and community involvement. Expecting a family to sign an agreement at the beginning of the year stating school comes first is not a moral alignment for me. I will not give up my already limited time with my son because he has 2 to 4 hours of homework every night and on breaks. MSA has a lot of work to do in regards to SPED. As we all know, there was a situation that caused an investigation of MSA's practices. And as I understand, everyone makes mistakes. You also need to learn from those mistakes and do better. I do not feel that is happening at MSA. At Monday's board meeting, a parent spoke up about how a SPED kid how they had to get 2 outside parties to get involved to get a SPED kid his IEP that they had been asking for a very long time. An outside party also agreed that the way MSA has their children in SPED leave their current classroom in the middle of the period, causing a disruption. Having to go to a different classroom in a different building causes not only tardiness, but emotional damage for those kids. Discrimination against WLA kids. It has been said several times that some board members, admin, and stakeholders have made comments such as, they will lower our test scores, they will dilute our student body. We don't want those kids. Personally, any negative comment about our kids, direct or indirectly, is unacceptable. And one small beat around the bush nonchalant apology is not enough for me. If parents are saying these kind of comments around their children, the children are now also probably thinking this. In fact, a student body on the board has made similar comments. This causes me to worry about how MSA and WLA students will end up interacting. Will this bring on a huge bullying issue? Why would WLA want to join with a community who thinks so low of our community? I foresee this, if we merge, this will cause a huge divide in the community. Misalignment. As we all know, MSA board meetings are nothing like WLA board meetings. Even when we went through some hard times, the meeting was not chaotic, and our board members show respect for each other. MSA board members have made some pretty strong comments against WLA and how all they want is our building. And yes, I know we have now stated that our building is a non-negotiable, but to them, I still get the impression that they are mainly concerned about the building and their finances. At Monday's board meeting, it was stated by the executive director of MSA, this is the best option for us right now, given the fact that the expansion is very limited. Do we want to merge with a school who sees us only as an option because they cannot expand on their own? We should only want to merge with a school that wants to merge with us because they feel the two schools are a great fit for each other and a great way to better the kids. This potential merger has already created a lot of tension and separation within our own community. And I believe moving forward with the merger will only cause an even larger divide. I know several families who plan to leave WLA if this merger happens, and to be honest, we may be one of those families. So I ask the board to please consider not how adding MSA's high school curriculum could benefit WLA, but how the merger in many ways will hurt WLA and our community that we love.
Thank you, Jamie. Next up, we have Joe Valentine.
Yeah, also a parent here. I've got a first grader. I've also got a little one on the way too. He's two years old, so would plan on sending him here, but I guess it will depend on the outcome of the merger. I sent an email to the board, to Dr. Kathy, to everybody. I found a pretty interesting piece from actually Harvard Business Review, and it quoted in there saying mergers and acquisitions are not a new concept. They've been helping organizations become more efficient and powerful. However, 70 to 90% fail, according to that. And as we're, a lot of the comments made by her, I mean, we can see how do we really fit with them. And I think it was very telling to watch the MSA board meeting on Monday night. I assume WLA, our authorizer, is probably a very big deal and important to you, what our authorizer thinks of WLA and how you guys are operating as a board, how the directors are operating. MSA brought in their authorizer, Liz, I think it was Wynn, hopefully I'm saying her name right. She was brought in because there's been so many complaints, I think from both parents, from probably staff, and her quote was that the MSA board is in a dysfunctional state. They've lost confidentiality, which in turn has lost trust. They haven't had transparency. There has been a lack of respect. She went as far as to bring in an attorney to educate the board on Minnesota state law as far as how there's open meeting laws and how a board should operate and all of those things. I think it's very telling to see how dysfunctional that is in contrast to watching how WLA operates, which is completely different. So then I go back to that statistic, 70-90% fail. You guys are doing a great job versus what's going on there. It just seems like a dysfunctional mess, which is coming from their own authorizer. And that was also reflected in parent comments. There was one parent who talked about out-of-order outbursts, verbal bullying. Supposedly they removed one board member without appropriate votes. They didn't have a true quorum. They still don't have a quorum in his opinion. Off camera, they violated open meeting laws, policy being crafted more by the students than by the board. Very concerning issues obviously going on. And I would implore everybody too to look at what are the policies at MSA. Some of their policies, especially like one of the recent ones having to do, and this is a very controversial issue, but I think it needs to be talked about, is they have a LGBT that was just passed in February, and it has to do, when you read the policy, it allows students that may be of a biological different sex to be in the same bathroom, to be in the same overnight quarters, the parent talked about an incident where a 13-year-old girl showed up for an environmental camp and found out she would be sharing quarters with a student of a biological different sex. I think a lot of fathers and mothers would be very concerned and upset about that. Is that policy going to be WLA policy if we were to merge? I know there was a petition going around against the merger, and I know there was maybe some pushback, and I get it because there was questions because there were some out-of-state numbers. Guilty. I'm an old Wisconsin boy, so I still have my 715 area code, so I'm sure I'm one of them, but I think there were quite a few parents that signed that. And I would also like to hear about the survey results. I know the survey came out from WLA. I'd love to hear what was that? What's the percentage of yes, no, where are we at? And I would highly encourage and ask the board tonight to just put it at a vote. And I think, in my opinion, it would be a no. I think it's time to move on because I think we could spend our time better by looking at expanding WLA and continuing the great success that everybody's created here.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Joe. Next up, we have Michael.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Reese. I'm the father of two children currently here that attend WLA, fourth grader and a first grader. And I'm here to speak on the topic of merger. On March 20th, MSA held a board of directors meeting. It sounds like many people here watched that, or at least either live streamed it or watched a replay of it. But the interesting thing of that meeting, there's a number of interesting things, but we had two kind of new guest speakers as part of that meeting. Raise your hands, everyone get a chance to watch that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, perfect, all right. If not, no worries, I'm gonna fill in kind of the cliff notes because it was about 4.5 hours long. As Joe mentioned, the meeting started with introducing Liz Wynn, the Director of Student Achievement Minnesota. Ms. Wynn is the founder of Twin Cities Academy Middle and High School, as well as two high-performing charter schools, and she has over 20 years of teaching experience. She also happens to be the authorizer of MSA. For those who don't know what an authorizer is, they're there to provide oversight and monitor performance of the schools. She was asked to join the Board of Directors meeting to present her findings of the Board of Directors governance. I assume this investigation came after numerous complaints by parents, which we will get into in just a couple minutes. Per Lynn's findings, were as follows. Per my observations, this is a direct quote from her. Per my observations and communications that I've received, board behavior and actions are concerning. I would describe it as a dysfunctional state. Student Achievement Minnesota continues to see the board struggle with governance as it pertains to relationships, trust, transparency, and respect. Lynn goes on to describe what she means by dysfunctional state. A dysfunctional state shows a lack of order, a lack of respect for others. It fosters personal agendas, lacks confidentiality, promotes a hostile environment, creates secret meeting discussions, and harbors mistrust. This is what I have observed and what has been communicated to me. Direct quote from her. Now, this is further corroborated by parents who spoke during the meeting. One gentleman brought up numerous concerns about the board that included a lack of communications from the board of directors when asking questions, a lack of decorum, and complete unethical behavior. In the two last meetings alone, he witnessed several out-of-order outbursts that should have ended meetings but didn't. He witnessed verbal bullying and shaming of members for having a differing opinion. And he outlined members violating a chain of command, dismissing standard procedure, and violating school policy for calling on the successful dismissal of a duly elected board member who was elected by the parents. This dismissal was done when the board did not have a quorum and a quorum of elected members, and therefore didn't follow school policy. In fact, the gentleman goes on to state that secretive meetings happened in that very meeting during a break about that topic, which violates open meeting laws. Now, I don't know about you, but this doesn't exactly scream WLA behavior to me. These concerns are being voiced by the school's third-party authorizer as well as MSA parents. And these concerns were enough to bring our second guest speaker to the meeting, who was a lawyer that specializes in board governance and regulation, to advise them on how to act like actual board of directors. MSA has made it clear time and time again that they do not share our values, they do not care about our culture or our curriculum. Some of these policies go as far as the state students have the right to hide gender identity from parents, and staff must comply with this. Students can use whatever bathroom their bathroom and locker room that they identify with, and sleeping arrangements on overnight trips are based on gender identity, not necessarily biology. Something like that was also addressed by a concerned parent with firsthand experience during this MSA board meeting. All of this is public information, so I encourage everybody to go to their website and start reviewing their policies In fact, I made it a point to print some off and highlight some areas of concern that I'd just love for people to take a look at and read. When it comes down to it, they care about our building and our money. That's it. It was brought up in that meeting, two hours into that meeting, again, and doing nothing is not an option for them. They need us, not the other way around. To be considering a merger with an organization that is being run at this level of incompetence is asinine, in my opinion. In my professional career, I work very closely with C-level executives and boards quite often. I know it may not look that, I'm just very excited for spring baseball. We typically ask two questions. Number one, what does this decision mean to your business? And number two, what does this decision mean to you personally? So since I cannot see a viable business advantage to partnering with incompetence, I have to ask the question, is the merger being considered for personal reasons as opposed to business reasons? Now, I do applaud the board for the vision and the goals that you've outlined to grow WLA to include grades K through 12, and I truly believe that we will get there at some point. But I do not believe this merger is the way to get there.
Thank you, Michael. Sorry if I murder this name, but I think it's Carly Sherrill on behalf of Ryan Patrick, and then also on your own, correct?
Yep,
Okay.
so comment from Ryan Patrick to the board and administration. As it would appear that some very strategic decisions are coming up related to WLA's future, I would like to see the WLA admin and board clearly lay out the options we have for growth. If, for example, there are two options, with one being a merger and one being WLA organically growing a high school, then would ask that a 1 to 2 PowerPoint slide be developed per option with a descriptive overview, key financial metrics, etc. Ultimately, the board needs to have a clear understanding of what their decision options are. If we keep moving down this merger path without discussing what it would look like to grow our own school, we are making a decision in a vacuum with no relevant data point to judge it against. You need a means to judge or evaluate whether this merger is the right choice, and right now, we have no idea what an organic growth plan even looks like. It is time for the board and admin team to get detailed about what these two options look like, so that the board and all of the WLA stakeholders can actually make an informed decision based on factual statements and data. Lastly, as part of comparing options, the board really needs to summarize and present to WLA stakeholders what our non-negotiable items are. Thanks. Bye. And then for myself, I am a parent of a first grader here. I also want to see the expansion plan for if WLA does not merge with MSA. At Monday's MSA board meeting, they suggested that without the merger, they would pursue multiple sites, possibly ending up with 2 middle schools and 1 high school. Note that they did not mention expanding to have grades K through 5. This tells me that a K to 12 school is not a primary goal of theirs, while it is of ours. Thank you.
Thanks, Carly. And last but not least, we have Tim and Sarah Wers.
It's just going to be me, kind of my placeholder, and it's great for me if I wasn't going to make it in time. So
Can you come up closer? Sarah, can you come up a little closer? You're quieter than
in the middle of
No, that's
the chaos. We had an adventure today. But I wanted to say that there have been some comments and dialogue on the Facebook group, and I just wanted to, I kind of got my thoughts there really good, that I feel confident that if a merger does not happen, then WLA will move forward with adding grades 9 through 12. It just isn't going to happen super quickly, and the curriculum will be built from scratch. So that is a pro in my mind of adding MSA, that they have that curriculum, pretty decent curriculum from all, that we know of. If anything too rigorous, but that could always change. Core knowledge is fantastic for K through 5, and I would urge that our board and school commit to keeping that at K through 5 and working on achieving Core Knowledge School of Distinction as we've been working towards. I think that The 6th grade and on up curriculum is a work in progress and figuring out what works best for those grades. I think core knowledge itself is new to developing curriculum for those grades. So they haven't worked out all the kinks either. And I think that we should really engage our middle school teachers in crafting what works best for our kids and not feeling stuck to core knowledge. We know what works good for K through 5. Let's open up some possibilities for the upper grades. And know that we're going to have some growing pains of adding grades and developing curriculum through all of those grades, as we've experienced with 6 through 8. And then I would love to hear what our middle school teachers think about a merger and the pros and cons of each school's current curriculum. And that MSA has rigor, but does that truly mean that every student is doing hours of homework every night and none of them have time for a well-rounded high school experience? I can't imagine that's the case with the extracurricular activities they currently have and support their students being involved in. So I know a lot of students have that experience there, but it can't be all. And what is it truly? Really, with the merger comes the opportunity to build something better than what each entity can offer on its own. We could be involved in creating something amazing and in the process improve upon or leave behind things that weren't working so well. Maybe the expectation of hours of homework is one of those things that could change. Maybe calculus would be offered but not be a requirement to graduate. Maybe we could teach and build relationships with even more great future leaders than we already do on an even bigger scale than was considered before. We could have a voice in all of that. We see a lot of not fantastic things, from MSA board meetings, board members, parents, through all of this. And I think they have a lot of fantastic things too. So they're not all bad. Not everything about their organization is negative and ugly like what we've seen. So maybe we can take the good and leave the bad and make everything better. And we don't have to take them as is in any scenario. We have the upper hand. We're already stating some non-negotiables. And if a merger doesn't happen, we'll be fine. We'll keep working on our goals. I would love to hear more about what that would be and what our board and school are doing to get that going now while this other process is going on, because we can work towards both. I appreciate the transparency that we are getting from our board and admin. Anyone I've spoken to has been open and honest and forthcoming. I don't feel the same with the MSA board and admin. I am really, our last board meeting was fantastic. I really appreciated and loved the open dialogue and the thoughtfulness that you all came, forward with your thoughts and concerns. That was really nice to hear that you guys were discussing it and sharing. I think that the letter was fantastic that was sent to them, and they dropped the ball on any kind of response there. They didn't even put the letter in their board packet. So it's not public knowledge to their school unless someone looks for it on our site. And that's not okay. That was to them, and all their stakeholders should be aware of that. They're not, their response was not good enough. And their response to merger committee questions are not good enough. They're too vague. They're not answering the questions we're asking. Some of the questions that we're asking, I'm in one of the merger committees, is simply data. What's your teacher retention rates? And the answer is it varies from year to year. That's not an answer from a school that says that they want the data. So I'm dissatisfied with that. I still feel like it's worth exploring if some of these things can change and how they respond to things. So I know I spoke a lot of time, I'm sorry. I also wanted to say regarding the library here, I have been really enjoying working on bringing that back together slowly but surely. And I wanted to thank the school for getting shelves that we need and some bins for the picture books and working on organizing that. It's been fun. If anyone else wants to help out in sorting, let me know. I got to reach out to a couple grandparents that want to help and we'll get going again. But it's been good, and the PTO's been great, and they have some funds also to help get some more things for the library. So, thank you.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right. That concludes our public comment. Move on to the board report. So just a few things. The survey got a lot of responses, so thank you for everyone who responded. I know it was a short time frame. We kind of just wanted to wait till after the MSA board meeting, but get it in before ours so that we could share results with you, which we will do during our merger update. So thank you to everyone who took the time to answer that quick question for us. Welcome back from spring break. It's the first time I got to see a lot of your faces, so I hope everyone had a great spring break and got some rest and relaxation, and we're back to tackle the rest of the year. And then one other little plug. We do have elections coming up for one seat of each, or renewals, I should say. So we will need to put together a small committee of 2 board members who are not up for renewal. So we can kind of...
Who is and who isn't? Do we know, or do we talk about it later?
We can talk about it right now. Yes,
Yeah.
I think Natalie's seat and my seat are both expiring,
In
and
June.
an empty community
Community
seat is expiring, so.
So one
we're
of
looking
each.
for-
Yep.
So every spring, we're looking for 1 new parent, 1 new teacher, and 1 new community member to join the board. Or the same teacher and parent, but I do not plan on running for the board again. I have done 2 terms on the board, and it's been as rewarding as it has been challenging, but I am looking forward to supporting the school in other ways, and so I love that this is kind of coming a nice time, that there's a lot of parents watching the meetings, and obviously big decisions being made, but that also shows there's just been a lot of parents coming. I mean, look at our merger committees, they're packed full of parents who are advocating on behalf of our school, so I'm hoping that many of them will run for this spot.
You can
So I'd be
always-
happy to help on that election committee. Well, I'm not running. If I was running, I would not obviously help on that committee, but, so if you're questioning it, yeah, I've been doing this a long time as well, so. Yeah, well, I think it's not, if you're expiring and you're not running, you just obviously wouldn't want to be on the committee where you're counting ballots if your name's on the ballot. That would be
Yeah.
like a conflict of interest, so my name will not be on the ballot.
What about you, Natalie? What are you, because you've done so much, you're on the governance committee,
I
you're...
have kind of been going back and forth right now, just the current state of my life. I am thinking about not running again, so I guess if there's teachers listening too, that might be something to get your wheels turning. Just, I think it.
200.
But I was, yeah, governance committee, I think I would stay, participating in that and stuff, but I did want to say that whoever is on the elections committee, I did type up last year when I did it, kind of a guide. So it is nice to have more than 1 board member. I don't know if you have to. But, so if Mandy did it and then somebody else wanted to.
Okay.
I think I've done it twice already, so I think I might be out of the running.
Yeah.
I'd like somebody else to step up for that.
You're not off yet.
Well, I've done it twice already.
You can't go off yet, you're not...
No, I've been on the committee
The
twice.
committee.
Oh, I
The
thought,
committee.
what are you talking about? So sorry.
I've been on the committee
Cut
twice.
that out, just,
Someone else can do it.
okay.
And then one other quick thing was that the letter that MSA responded to our written letter, they did send a written response. I think they posted it during their meeting on their screen from what I was watching. I think that's what it said. It was very small. Our board has been provided with a copy of their written response, and we can put that up on our merger page as well. It's up already. So it is there for you guys to see as well, stakeholders, because I know a lot of people had asked about that. So,
Put actually a bunch of copies. So.
oh, perfect.
You have hard copies there, all right.
Yeah, and that was all I have for,
Quick side note on the election, it's really easy.
yeah.
So if you guys want to jump in, it is super easy. I can do it.
Capacity now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sweet.
And I know someone has some time on their hands.
HGTV's got to be getting old now.
I thought he was going to chair the facilities committee with his free time.
All right, so we'll move on to, yeah, there we go. That was an answer of yes, that's what I heard, so.
All right, I know that we're all anxious to get to the merger committee stuff, so I'll try to go quickly. Cassidy, we're going to start you with, under organizational leadership, an adjustment is needed to the 2022, which is the current calendar, to specify which were our flex learning days. MDE called and said which ones were, we know that they had snow days, but which ones were flex?
All together.
I don't know, you're
The most recent.
the most,
recent one was February 17th, and then we have April 7th coming up.
okay, February 17th and April 7th?
Yes.
Okay.
All together with December 15th, January 3rd and 4th, and January 11th.
Okay, so someone's going to be making a motion on that later.
Or we can do it now, but I just want to.
Or we can do it now,
So,
okay.
my understanding is some of these are planned, that would already be on the calendar. I think what I maybe hear you saying is the ones that were going to be snow days, but the kids did flex days instead.
For
Is that
grades
what
7,
you're
8, yeah.
Needing to update the calendar for those to
Correct.
reflect.
So
The,
disregard February 17th and April 7th.
yeah, because I think the
And add
calendar.
February 22nd. You can get those officially.
So you want us to motion at some point to add February 22nd and 23rd as flex learning days for grades 7 and 8?
I know Mandy and I talked, and I don't know if we necessarily. need
I
to
feel
amend
like
that.
maybe we're not quite ready for this
Okay,
today.
let's move on then.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. Under instructional leadership, I wanted to add something that Sarah Wurz already talked about. Actually, Megan Naif is our curriculum coordinator, and we're one step closer to a school of distinction. The good news and the bad news is our distinguished school nationally for core knowledge. Good news is pre-COVID, there were 13 schools ranked nationally as distinguished, and now there's only 8. So, have been in touch with Casey out in Fort Collins again, and I said, can we get someone out here to kind of do a practice walkthrough? Because they do classroom visits, they talk to teachers, they look at curriculum, they do a lot of, and he thought that was money well spent. So we'll probably do that in the early fall coming up. But just to let you know, we're going to do some practice runs before they come out and actually look at, and we're going to do K-5, and then at some point in the future, we'll do middle school. And we're going to give it a go. So we think we have everything posted and everything that they have required by paper. But we want to have some dry rehearsals or rehearsals.
Kathy, just one little note. I noticed you had March 9th under governance committee met. We
Mhm.
met on the 16th.
Okay.
You shifted that.
Thank you. Sorry about that. We'll make that correction. Mhm. And then also for Sarah Wurz, she doesn't know she's my BFF tonight, but these the young people, which is everybody in this room that's younger than me, which is everybody, they're calling it a love project. Has anyone heard that? Like, okay.
Like,
Something like, this is what I'm going to work on this year, and that's been Sarah for the library. Thank you. And Mandy will soon be able to help you. Right? No, that's really, really appreciated.
Dr. Morrison, real quick, backing up to the, what was that award or accreditation or whatever that we were talking about?
School of Distinction, core knowledge. Mhm.
Could you just explain, like, if we do get that or qualify for that, whatever it is, what would that do for us, our school, or stakeholders? How would that benefit us, or?
I think it's just a badge of prestige. There's, like I said, only 8, there used to be 13, but there's 2 in Fort Collins, Colorado. I think there's a couple in Phoenix. There's a couple on the coast there, a couple on the coast there. There's none in the Midwest. We do have some other schools in the metro area that do some pieces of core knowledge. That doesn't mean they're core knowledge schools. And we want to say we're doing the whole program with fidelity, I guess for bragging rights. And that's it. You know, we don't get extra money, but just a job well done.
Sure.
Congratulations, you're doing it well. It comes out of the University of Virginia. Pardon me?
Recruitment tool.
Recruitment, I mean, it's a
Achievement.
bit, yeah. It's just been something that has been in my heart and has been in our board's heart for at least 6 years. I think that's when we put it in our first strategic plan to start working towards that. When COVID hit, it really slowed everything down. But one step closer. Okay, YMCA, quick down on for financial management. I met with them today, made a plug for, hey, if we're interested in a pre-K program just with 4-year-olds, or maybe even infants to age 4-year-olds, would you guys be interested in putting that together in collaboration with us? Hopefully they would do the bulk of the work and we would just provide kids. And they said, yeah, we do that. So that will be something that I'll get more information on and explore to you. Rather than us building that potential program, they can. All right, that's coming in food service. Food service. So there's no such thing as a free lunch, and we all know that. So I think when you read the governor's plan, we're excited about providing breakfast and lunch for our kids, as will every other school in the state. That's terrific. No one is against it. Just want to make sure that the board members know that that does not cover the staffing for that or some of the equipment that we have not yet bought. So I'm guessing it will be between about $40,000 for some of the additional pieces that we'll need for heat and serve. We are gathering bids from food service catering companies. So I think I'll have those through the finance committee and then presented to the board in April. So it's great for our kids, but there will be expenses and we will put them in the budget. So, and many of our teachers, I haven't heard from parents, I'm assuming they're ecstatic, especially Jason Livingston, who has to make 2 lunches every day evidently. But our teachers are so thankful for this program because you know, some of our kids, well, yeah, some of our kids come and they're not prepared a certain day, or they ate it on the bus and now it's 10:30 in the morning and they're hungry again, so.
So what do they cover?
They'll cover the expense of the meal.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's things, you know, the additional dumpsters, there's gonna be food waste, because, you know, if you're supplying it to everybody and you have 680 kids, we have 680 lunches ready, and typically we have 30 kids absent a day. Well, what if you have 35 absent that day? Now 5 kids get peanut butter and jelly, or. So it's not going to be as smooth, but we will figure it out, and I think we're excited about it.
Did you say breakfast as well?
And breakfast will be part of it, yeah. And that will be tricky. We'll have to figure out how that goes. Some of it will be through the YMCA and before school program, and then some of it will be as they're walking through. It's typically muffins and cold things and fruit, and so maybe we keep them out of homeroom and have them eat in the annex. I'm not sure. Again, we'll figure it out. It's on the way. Okay, under human resources, we have a couple new folks. April Huntington, new paraprofessional. She's also a mom of a kindergarten student here. And then Ann Polachek will be starting as a substitute teacher, and she'll be starting, I think, Monday. Next page, I have satisfaction surveys went out to all staff members regarding the admin team. We did them individually, so Kathy and Ben and everybody's was separate. I think overall the results were pretty good, or good. But there are things on each administrative team staff member that we need to work on and reflect on and address. So we've got some things to improve on. Satisfaction surveys will go out to all of our families this week. Cassidy, do we know if they went out yet? Okay, so maybe tomorrow, hopefully soon. And that will say how parents do you feel that the teachers are doing. So now and then we'll get some concerns with a few teachers, but generally it's those also come back pretty good. I'm going to pass out a couple things to board members or audience members, and this is just a reminder. These have been passed. These were passed out last October, I think it was, and one is about administrative staffing, and the other is about succession planning. You know, how are we going to transfer some leadership positions? That one, and then the stapled one, so you'll get 2. And then audience members. So I know that this is a lot to expect everybody to look at.
I don't like it.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
All of them?
Yeah, I'm sorry. One page and then, yeah.
All right, thank you. Sorry for the disruption there. So again, this should look familiar to board members from last October, and the idea is that as we grow, what I'm asking the board for tonight is to give the green light to move forward with hiring a second principal. We've gotten big enough that it warrants that. Your school has 2 principals. How many kiddos?
In our building, we have like a little under 200
Okay,
with 2 principals.
with 2 principals. Did everyone hear that? Did everyone at home hear that? So,
Yeah, and then we have an executive director who plays more of like the superintendent role. But
Ben, did you have anything to say about that, Mr. Broder? Who is our only principal right now, he's K-8. And he does a lot of operations. We had a teacher last night that...
I'm dumbfounded.
Yeah. Had a teacher last night that locked her keys in her classroom, and fortunately Ben was here, and we broke into the classroom. And from what I understand, it's quite a bill that I saw on that. But
It was fun though.
it was fun. I'm glad y'all had fun.
Kept the door handle, so pretty.
Souvenir?
Angle grinder, that thing, right? You got it good.
Yeah. So, in all seriousness, he's spread thin, I'm spread thin. I'm not sure that all of our staff, and I'll try to clarify with them, that I am really not doing any principal duties. There's other things, and that's not including the merger, there's other things that fill my plate. Our teachers need the support of an elementary principal and a middle school principal that they can count on to see them, drop in on their classes, observe, coach, manage the behavior problems for that. One of them then would continue doing operations. Another one would probably use part of their time to do all of our planning with events. Jess Erickson's doing that now, our Dean of Students. So that's why all of this flurry of activity. Just to remind you guys, this is kind of in the plan for having a second principal this coming year. I'd like to set up interviews mid-April. I already advertised, and we have about 9 candidates so far that have sent paperwork in, but I don't want to proceed and then waste everybody's time, and the board said, nah, we don't feel it. So I'd like some maybe discussion or input on that now for a minute, and I'm almost done with my report. How do you feel?
I think we need it.
We need it.
Definitely. I also see on here that you have it kind of allocated for 2 deans, which would then add an additional dean position, right?
That's the dream, but it's also has to work with the budget, obviously. I'm responsible to present you guys with a budget that is obtainable.
Because I feel like when I was here, that was kind of, I felt like Jess was running in so many different directions. Too.
Correct.
And I think even having a dean who is, I know this is maybe nitty gritty, but I'm just gonna say it now.
Yep.
Like the transportation coordinator and doing extracurriculars, like they're pulled in different directions, where I don't know if there'd be a different way to structure it so that, like, you know, transportation is with facilities and operations more like in that wheelhouse, because if you're dealing with, you know, a second grader who needs your attention and then a parent who needs busing information in the same, you know, that's just hard to, I feel like, do those things. And, but I think if we add another principal, maybe that person is also taking on more of the behavioral aspects as well.
And I can pick your brain outside of this meeting for other restructuring ideas as well.
I do think it's a big.
So for teachers, Dr. Mortensen, just for stakeholders here listening, me as a parent that aren't in the day-to-day in the trenches with you guys, and can you just give a nice summary as far as why that we would need this? And it's obviously we probably do, but everybody's probably at home asking, well, what exactly are the reasons why we would? You know, if you guys give us some bullet points. You guys immediately start nodding your heads, so obviously, you know, there's a need there, but what's the need? Like, if you guys could sum it up for us, or what's your thoughts?
Thoughts are that both Ben and
Jess?
Jess are pulled in way too many directions. As administrators, there is planning work, there is implementation, there's all these different things. And all day long, all you hear, Mr. Broderick, Jess, Building B, all day long.
Checks out?
I think it's a lot.
And then when the teachers need a dean, no, not so much.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's not because they don't want to. Well, Ben might not want to come see me, but other than that, they're just pulled in too many directions.
You said more so like someone to do like planning type of activity versus like fighting the fights that kind of appear on the day to day. So to better balance that out, I guess, and maybe allocate the time more evenly across two folks, because I understand what that could, how that could feel like.
And it's got to be frustrating if you're working on something, trying to develop some high-level document,
Yeah.
and you're up and down, up and down, and up and
Yeah,
down,
me
because you're
definitely.
constantly getting called. So is that going to be quality work?
No, it's not.
I think we just have so many kids, like, I feel like, I can't trace back in my mind, like, the structure that we've had since I've been here, but the growth that we've had has been so enormous, but it doesn't feel like we've added many more people at that level to help.
support that,
Yeah,
yeah.
so I think it's, yeah, it's definitely time.
We have too many kids and not enough administrators. Since I've started, we had Dr. Mortensen for 1 year, the only administrator. Then we added the dean, I believe.
3.
Maybe at one time, but not, right now, we're just down to the one dean, and that's just not enough for all the behavior issues that are happening and all the issues that come up amongst all grade levels.
So
So,
many kids.
there's, yeah, so, and compared to other schools in our population size, we are very low on the administrator levels. Like Shelby said, they've got 2 principals, they've got their director as well. So we need more administration to help our school function in a better way, help our teachers more, and also to guide our students through where they need to be.
Is there any benchmarking we could do to kind of see like schools in the area, like?
Already got that, yep.
principals versus populace? Like, we have data around that.
Yeah, I can
If we
send
get
that
some Data
out.
around that, then
Yeah.
folks definitely.
I can send that
I would
out.
also add that a kindergarten or a principal of a lower elementary is very different than a principal of a middle school, and dividing that would make that both the jobs easier because they would be able to focus on their age group.
I was gonna say that too. I think we've tried that in the past, had deans kind of with different classroom or grade assignments, and I think that did seem to work fairly well. As long as you get the right people in the right places. And I know there's some, just finding out what people's niches are and where they excel and what ages of kids they work well with. But I think it looks like I feel like we've tried different things every year.
Yeah.
Like as we've grown, we've tried to see what works, and we've, I think that there was some questioning whether this year's model, how that would work, because while we have 2 really qualified, a dean, principal, and I'll call you a superintendent or executive director, 3 really qualified, you all are doing the whole school rather than having your niche areas, and maybe, sounds like you're maybe going back to what we maybe did a little bit more last year of having assigned areas so that
That's
the
what we
kids
did.
can get familiar with that face and.
Just proximity, I mean, Jess Erickson, I don't know how many steps, a lot, and per day. So I think it was a couple months ago now, Ben, that we said, Ben's going to primarily do behaviors in this building. She's going to at least limit there, but I mean, I think she's still like 50 million steps a day. So just trying to kind of get zones. But it's just tough, and I don't want to make it sound like our school has a lot of behavior problems. I think of a young lady today that was just sort of having a little bit of an anxiety. She needed someone to sit with her and calm her down a little bit. Megan Naif was able to step in and help with that. But I think 3 times in the last year and a half, we've had kindergarten kids that have gone en natural, and that's been a problem. When you get that call on the radio from the kindergarten teacher, I need help.
Did that happen?
3 times, it's happened 3 times now in about a year and a half.
But recently that happened?
I don't think, I think maybe last fall was it. So,
That was the other day.
Pardon me?
We're the one.
I know, I know. So there's just things that happen in a school. It's not necessarily a behavior problem, it's just interesting. It's just stuff, yeah.
And we're a big school. We have to get out of the mentality that we're not that tiny, cute little charter school that was started, 9 years ago. We're big. So we need to have that support behind that.
Okay.
Ben has his hand up.
I will say one of the things about this is all of our stakeholders really entrust us with their most precious commodity, right? So regardless of the incident, we want to make sure that we're doing a very thorough job. And that becomes one of the challenges, is if I'm interacting with a third grader or a fourth grader, I want to give them all my time to be able to investigate the situation and to give them results that are beneficial for them as a student, and communicate with the parents to make sure that they're satisfied with what's going on at school. And that becomes more challenging when there's limited people to be able to do that, because we're not in the business of flipping pancakes, right? I don't think anybody would want my interaction with their student to be, okay, you did this, all right, this is the consequence, or this is what happens. I think there needs to be an appreciation for going in deep and trying to figure out what's the cause of some of these actions and what's kind of happening. And that goes to Dr. Mortensen's point too. It's not all behavior related. A lot of that is social emotional and how days are going. The administrative team really takes a pride in knowing all the students and being able to interact with them in that type of way. So that's just kind of my piece for how you can get kind of spread thin on a day.
So what I'm hearing from the teachers, Dr. Morrison, Ben, is there's obviously a need there. Everybody's spread thin. Teachers are stepping in to that position as well, knowing that there's not a lot of bandwidth on Ben's end. So bringing this resource in, or additional resources in, would help free the teachers up to be able to do their teaching thing and not have to step into these other roles, which would be a good thing for you guys. So.
Right.
And I can share as a former teacher, like the year that I felt most successful was a year where I had a supervisor who was able to walk through my classroom at least once a week, even if it was 5-10 minutes, and send me notes of like, hey, this was a really positive thing. Here's one thing you could try next time. And just being able to have fresh ideas every week and know that like my supervisor saw what I was doing, and like that recognition that you can give teachers when you have time to be in classrooms, and like the community and the culture that builds, I think is super important. Teachers feel more supported and more valued, and then they want to work harder because, everyone likes that feel-good feedback. And so it has been a struggle since COVID as a school leader to get into classrooms, because we do, even at our building with 2 of us, we put out fires all day and run around like crazy and never get all the things done we want to get done. So I can definitely empathize with you as to where that need is. So
I think a lot of days we've gotten to the point, and I'm not complaining here, that it's all about just getting through the day.
Yep.
And I don't want to do that.
Okay, so I don't need a motion, but I feel like everyone's weighing in. I'm not sure where you two are at. I'm guessing thumbs up. I'm going to go ahead with the interviews. Okay.
Budget-wise, I don't know if you brought it up, are we good to do that along with food service person, which was kind of a, yeah.
That's what we're going to make sure of. So that the other things that we want to add on, like another dean or a second counselor, all of that is under those 2 positions. Okay. And then to wrap up, I'm sorry it's been a lengthy director report, but Ben, you are the entertainment back there. Can you give us a highlight for communications, management, or just kind of the fun stuff? I want everyone to hear.
Yeah, thanks for putting me on the spot again. I'll be relatively quick. So we got some great things going on at WLA, like always. It seems like that's been something that I get to report on a bunch, and I really enjoy doing that. One of the huge things that we got started, Drama Club started. That club filled up fast. And so we have an after-school drama club. We're hopefully going to have some sort of a performance on our new stage. So we're really excited to get that kind of going. April 6th, The PTO is running International Night, Festival of Nations, that's 6 to 7:30. So that's a big event that we like to have people kind of come out to.
Yeah.
For our students and for some of our faculty, Ramadan started yesterday, so we have some different accommodations in place for some of the lunchrooms and for some of the classes to help with that celebration. Bus safety went out after spring break, so all of our students are getting their refresher on their bus safety and trying to remember all those wonderful rules for riding the bus. Over spring break, we did partner with Woodbury Police, and they had their K-9 unit come out and do a little bit of training within our facility. No students were on site for that, limited staff were on site for that, but that's a good partnership that we want to continue to grow. Middle school finished up their service learning project. Over 700 pounds of food was donated. We took it over in a couple truckloads. Somehow I got volunteered because I drive a truck, so that was kind of fun to pack that all up and bring that all over and see their faces as we're donating all the wonderful supplies to them. We have Owl Academy getting ready to launch, so that's going to be big for this summer. So look forward to more news on that as we kind of go forward. Last year, of course, we had Owl Academy as well, and that was a very well attended summer program. They're changing up a little bit of kind of their what their focus is this year, but there'll be more information on that as we go forward. One of the things I'm really excited for, and I know our staff is really excited for, and so I can kind of wrap up on this point, is tomorrow we have a presenter coming in that's going to present all on artificial intelligence to our staff. So if you've been keeping up with like Chat GPT, which is kind of interesting for educators moving forward and its abilities and what it can kind of do. So we have a presenter coming in, and they're really going to focus in on helping us be able to write some AI-resistant questions as we move forward, because if you don't know anything about a middle schooler, sometimes the easiest route is the best route, and they'll be able to use that to get some good stuff. So some AI-resistant questions they're going to be looking at, ethically integrating AI into the classroom, and if that's really possible, and then leveraging AI for increased efficiency in schools, and then finally explore innovative ways to use AI for comprehension. So we're really excited to see what this presenter has to bring. I think it'll be really interesting. Typically, when I would go through like my leadership training, they would say schools are typically 5 or 6 years behind technology-wise on where their students currently are. Like we're always trying to catch up. And so we're hoping that at least this little seminar helps us get a little bit ahead of what this thing could bring. So yeah, not as entertaining as last time, but that's what I got.
Thank you.
Can I ask Ben
Yeah.
a question? Because I know there's probably some people thinking of it.
Yeah.
This isn't to replace people with robots. That's not the road that we're going down here.
No,
Okay.
that's not.
I know it sounds like a silly question, but
No,
that's
that's
sure
not
people
what
are thinking of.
What we're really looking at is we're really looking at how we can best adapt with our students as they adapt.
Sure.
What we want to be able to avoid is giving an assignment and having that assignment be generated by artificial intelligence and have the student have no part in that.
Sure.
If you've ever played around with this, it can do some pretty impressive things. I mean, you can whip up a thesis paper relatively quick, giving it some key points, and it can have close to your voice structure, like how you would sound depending on how much information you give it. So if you ask me, if you say, hey, Mr. Broderick, as a high school kid or as a middle school kid, how would you utilize this? That's what we're trying to prepare our teachers for, right? Like, we're trying to prepare them for the meat of high school and middle school. Okay? That makes sense?
Yeah,
No robots.
that.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
What's up? Finances.
Hello, Brenda. We are ready for you.
everyone. I'm going to be presenting the February financials, and then along with that, I'm going to be proposing the revised budget for the fiscal 22-23 year. So we'll be bringing it all together as one presentation here. I'm going to jump down to page 3 of the executive summary. Our working budget is currently at budgeting at 669 ADMs. It is slightly lower than the actual enrollment at 672, and this was as of February 28th. So there may have been changes between the end of February and now. It's been a few weeks. But this is where we were at with this revised budget. Our working budget is projecting a surplus of $302,845, and we have about 106 days of cash on hand, and that's 106 days of annual expenditures. So we're very strong cash-wise, and we're required to have at least 45 days. So at month end, as of February 28th, we are 67% through the school year complete. Our cash balance at the end of February was $2,209,000, just slightly down from last month at $2,287,000, and that's due to the increase in the holdback each month. That will go up slightly until the end of June. Our revenues received year to date, according to the working budget, is 67%, and our expenditures were at about 63%. So right on target year to date. Other items to point out: the working budget column in these financials is what we're proposing as a revised budget for the board to approve. Things that we're working on at Bergen are the 990 tax return, which is due in a couple months, and just a little update, and I'm sure you've probably heard some of these. Governor Walz is proposing a state aid formula increase of 4 to 5% for next fiscal year, and so we're hoping that is true. Because that would really help our budget. And they also just approved his recommendation for all free lunch for the schools. So that's great news for your school if you're going to be starting a food service program. The next page is just that colorful dashboard information that colorfully reflects the information I just mentioned. So I'm going to scoot down, for time's sake, I'm going to scoot down to page 7 of the finance packet. And we are, the revised budget proposal is the working budget column below, so I have a red line put into it. And this shows the new ADM and the pupil units of 687. So we're down from the original budget. And the working budget changes are over here in the right-hand column, the last column on the right-hand side. And we have these changes accumulating. And so we thought there were so many changes that have happened and accumulated since the beginning of the school year that it's time to come to the board to adopt these changes, and then if there are additional changes before the end of the school year, we can also adopt that as a revised number 2 budget. I want the actual budget to be as close as possible to the actual numbers, so that's why we have to do this. And so we have a total revenue adjustment of reduction of $58,383, and you can see that we have reduction in state aid, and that was due to the reduction in enrollment from what we've originally projected. But we were also able to bring in some local revenues to help offset that reduction. And so that's why we only have an adjustment of 58,000 in revenue. Going down to the page 8, you can see that we have in the far right column, we have several changes that we've been tracking in our budget on a monthly basis. As Kathy was saying, we're constantly monitoring it to meet our fiscal needs, and we are adjusting the budget expenditures by 113,000. And so we're actually increasing the bottom line by 54,715. So luckily we were able to find some savings along the way in adjustments that actually helped us reflect an increase in that fund balance. So if you look on page 10, this is the summary of the month-end information. We have year-to-date net income of 497. Our working budget change is an increase from the adopted budget. So we have the adopted budget at 248,130, and now we're ending the revised budget at 302,845. And that was the increase of 54,715. So that's all. It's a good move. It's a positive move for the budget, and added to our beginning fund balance at the end of last fiscal year of $2,015,000. If we stay on target, we will end the fiscal year with $2,318,462, or 31% fund balance and 128% debt service coverage ratio. Real good solid numbers here for the revised budget. And these numbers we're asking the board to approve tonight. So then what will happen is this column here will become the revised budget, and then we'll add a new column in your budget for another working budget column until the end of the fiscal year. But we will continue to track any changes that will happen between now and June 30th. Are there any questions about the changes or the financials?
No questions.
Right. In this last page of the packet, is this a summary of contracted services, and we track those monthly. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Julie?
Sure, the Finance Committee had a regularly scheduled meeting March 15th, Wednesday at 4:30. It was a virtual meeting. We discussed everything that Brenda has just presented, as well as reviewing our proposed budget model, reviewing the ERC credit, and then some clarification of wordings on contracts. It's a quick meeting, really, and we ended at about 5:49. Are there any questions? Okay, if that's the case, I'd like to make a motion to approve February financials and March Finance Committee minutes.
I'll second that motion.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to approve the February financials and March Finance Committee minutes. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Abstentions?
Then I'd like to also make a motion to approve the amended budget.
I second that as well.
There's been a motion and a second to approve the amended budget. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Great, and I know it says that I will be giving the governance committee report, but our wonderful Natalie is back with us, so she's going to go ahead and take over that.
Yeah, so we met on March 16th, pushed it back a little bit, started meeting about 4:37 on Zoom. If you are somebody who wants to tune into governance, we did change the Zoom to a different Zoom account, so I think we're also discussing making a board Zoom account, so we might be changing again, we'll see. But we discussed kind of where we're at with our student family and employee handbooks, and those are still kind of being completed, so we're hoping those will be done soon, and definitely by next school year for everyone. And then we just continued looking at our 200, so we have 2 of the 200 policies that are up for second reading tonight. Not many changes, just some formatting and small corrections here and there. And then our 510 retention policy, they did some work in February at our governance meeting that just kind of cleaned it up a lot from things we don't really do anymore, and kind of summarized it and simplified it for what we do now. If we wanted to retain a student and hold them back. Future discussions, we're looking at creating a grading policy to kind of outline that clear for parents and teachers. Look at more 200s, look at some policies we have to do annually, just make sure we've done those we did last year. And then this is kind of a one for all of you, is just discussing like governance members, since I am the committee chair right now and one of the members. We kept Jess as the committee chair, but I might be able to stay on as the committee chair even if I'm not on the board, but if any of you are looking for a change to the new committee, governance is always welcoming people. So even if you want to just come for a meeting and check it out.
Or parents or other teachers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there has to be a board member on each committee, but the chair doesn't necessarily have to be a board member, and parents or teachers who are non-board members are welcome to join committees. And I do think it's a really good way if someone is kind of thinking they might want to serve on the board at some point in time. The committees are a nice way to jump in. I'm getting a confused look over there, Julie.
I was just under the impression that the chair had to be a board member.
I will say it's challenging when it's not, because then who gives a report at the meeting? But I couldn't find anything that bylaws that says that it has to be.
Dr. Martins and I were just talking about that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, I
that,
thought
like
they had
Jason
to.
Livingston has been chairing the facilities committee meeting, but he's not on
That's
the
true.
board any
That's
longer.
true.
And Jess is the chair for the governance committee meeting, but she's not on the board any longer. So it is helpful if it's a board member, because then all those, you are the one giving the report at the meetings, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
Yeah. And then our next meeting will be April 13th, Zoom again, and we finished up at 5:08 p.m. Any questions? All the policies were pretty.
That was probably our fastest governance meeting, because I think your Zoom meeting was timed.
Yeah, I don't have the premium account, so we have 40 minutes.
We were efficient.
Another reason to get a board. We've been pretty quick, so if you're looking to be on governance, we've been pretty quick with our. So then I'll make a motion to accept our March governance committee minutes and enter policies 510, 206, and 208 into second reading.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second for accepting the March Governance Committee minutes and entering policies 510, 206, and 208 into second reading. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, Julie.
So, the minutes I have, I believe I gave kind of last week, or last month. We had our facilities meeting on February 14th at 4:30. It was a virtual meeting. We talked about closing out kind of the construction manuals and all that. Everything was finalized and uploaded. There's a physical copy, and then there's some on some super secret drive that Ben knows about that I don't know about. There was $55.79 in the construction project fund. I think that's kind of interesting, and the January balance. So we just kind of close things out. For next steps, we need to sign the completion certificate for the trustee. Since this is February minutes, might have happened already. We need, as we discussed a little bit, a new chair for this committee, and to decide what's the direction, the mission, now that the construction is basically done.
Julie, can I add that we postponed that meeting till
And-
March 28th?
Yep.
Where we'll talk about what is the focus and who will be the chair, right?
Yep.
Or did you already say
So
that?
this is February 14th that I'm recording
Oh,
on.
Yep.
gotcha.
And then for the current month, as Dr. Morton said, we postponed it and that'll be the 28th.
Okay.
And it's looking like this isn't asking for any motions or anything then.
I think we probably should motion to, even if it doesn't say it, accept your
Accept
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah, just.
Okay.
So it would be the February minutes.
Accept the minutes for the February 14th Facilities Committee report.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to accept the February 14th Facilities Committee meeting minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Abstentions? Motion carries. All right, the big one.
The big one, yeah. We're going to now move into our merger update, and we're going to take our time. I recognize that everybody's already had a very full day. This is important stuff, as we all know, and I hope that the board will come to a decision. I've got 4 recommendations here, so that we have a clear path for moving forward. Okay, so let's start with Shelby. If you could read, or do you want to read their response and talk a little bit about that before we dive into?
Sure.
Okay. And you have hard copies back there?
Yep.
Okay, so kind of, they did answer, but we kind of wanted more.
Yep. So as we discussed at our last meeting, we drafted a letter and sent it out to the MSA board, asking them to address the comments that were made and kind of throughout the, like, if the building's not up there, are you guys really still interested and why? The written response I received is as follows. Ms. Shelby Poole, thank you for reaching out with clarifying questions on our potential merger. Through open dialogue, I am convinced we will better understand each other. The whole MSA Board of Directors was unable to discuss these questions together. However, in order to keep the dialogue going, allow me to respond as an individual, as I was uniquely named. I have also reached out to Board Member Bartle and included her comments below as another individual response. Thank you for the opportunity for clarification. I will share our response with our MSA board and would appreciate if you could share our individual clarifying responses with your community as needed. Thank you, Dan Ellingson and Jennifer Bartel. Building comments from Board Member Ellingson. First of all, allow me to apologize if my comments at our MSA December 2022 Board of Directors meeting caused harm for WLA members. It was not my intention for my statement to hurt anyone. As an individual Board of Director member, I did make comments to our MSA community regarding WLA's facilities and buildings. My intention at that time was to describe how MSA had arrived at that state of discussion in our expansion efforts. MSA has been exploring various expansion options now for some time to bring our fantastic middle and high school experience to even more students. As many know, MSA is currently at maximum capacity and is in need of more space to support our mission and vision going forward. My understanding is the initial merger idea was sparked as a solution for a facility constraint with MSA and for WLA to provide an optional path for middle high school student progression. While those original ideas are still there, there is so much more that a merger can offer our combined communities. We now have had an opportunity to meet more with WLA administration teams, teachers, and members of the WLA community. I can only speak individually, but I have been very impressed with the love and pride WLA community members have for their school. By school, I am referring to everything: students, staff, building, community, etc. We have since learned how a merger could provide our students with an even stronger financial foundation, and through merger synergies, we could explore additional programming offerings together that to date have not been achievable. In addition, we have only started to think of the exciting possibilities students may benefit from with a PK-12 offerings together. We are both trying our best to serve our communities the best we can. It seems that we have an opportunity which should be explored to determine if we can cooperate together more than compete with each other. District 622 comments from Board Member Bartle. I stated my concern for 622 only because of the busing situation and the fact that 622 is an entirely different school district that I don't know a lot about. The city of Woodbury has a very jagged border through the middle of the north end of town that separates the city into 3 distinct school districts: 833, 622, and Stillwater. We have known several families that moved to Woodbury and bought a home and enrolled their children in a school within the borders of an 833 charter or private, and then found themselves in the predicament that they cannot get busing to school because they live in another school district, say Stillwater or 622. Although it is state law for school districts to provide busing for all students within their borders, this stops at the school border. The city of Woodbury has 3 of these borders. My concern was that kids currently living in 833 and utilizing bus services would somehow be left out. I believe the majority of kids currently at MSA live within the 833 borders. It is my understanding that MSA administration has recently been working on addressing these concerns with the 833 administration.
So initially, that came back to Shelby and I don't know that that went out to all board members. Julie? All right, we're listening. Then, you know I'm having fun with you, right? Okay. So that came back, and then there was some dialogue that went back and forth with you as well as the board chair there and their executive director. Sort of, is this adequate? And you sort of said, our board would really like to see your board discuss it, but if this is how you'd like to respond, we're okay with that.
Yep.
And that's kind of where it went. And that's why I think most of us tuned in or have since looked at their board meeting from Monday. All right. So here we go. So first of all, I know there's lots of strong opinions in the room, and we've got some merger results here to pass out. I've got another handout, but I'd like to just say 3 or 4 points here before we go. Shout out to our board. I understand that MSA is having some trouble with their board right now, but I would remind everyone that 6 years ago, we had 3 board chairs in 3 months, my first 3 months as a director. And my husband and I would come home after a board meeting and say, we got a new board chair. And after 3 months, he was like, what kind of a school are you working in? This is not good, Kath. We had a very hurtful board meeting a year ago, March of last year. So we have not had a perfect track record, but one thing that really stood out when Liz Wynn talked, and I wrote it down, she says, how we govern matters, and it really has just stuck with me. So I would like to commend our current board for, and I think you've heard kudos already here tonight, but I think our board is doing a great job, and we're doing a good job governing right now. Second, I would like to shout out to the MSA board, although they're struggling right now, and we all understand that. I did appreciate the many things that they said, and I'm going to read through some of them because I think it's healing, but my comments are pretty short. I want our staff, especially if any staff is out there listening, to find some affirmation in what was said. As we all know, Mr. Ellingson apologized, talked a bit about WLA, financial stability, and strategically looking for a big picture. Teresa, one of their teacher board members, said, merger provides family stability, streamlines communication, there's collaboration among staff member, multi-labeled learners can get support. I believe she's their EL director or teacher there. There's mentorship and leadership opportunities for kiddos. One of their other teacher board members said early interventions, IEPs, 504, consistency of K-12, wait lists, broader team, K-12 curriculum, accelerated programs, extracurricular activities. Talked about core knowledge sequence, emphasized the science base, financial strength, pay equity for teachers. Mr. Ellingson, says, that they have seen, how can people get into MSA? I mean, it's a great school. We all need to recognize that. And he said, maybe we have an obligation to offer this MSA program to more students. He also said the speed of making decisions is a concern. One of their student representatives said, would we be competing with them? Another teacher said, let's not lose what works, small caring communities, curriculum differences. There was good discussion coming down home stretch here. I'm not sure her last name, Patel maybe? I think this is really important for our staff to hone in on. She expressed that she loves WLA's whole child approach, which I know our parents also love. Modeling integrity is great for the lower school, tremendous transitional opportunity for middle school programming. Capacity, fantastic. CKLA, core knowledge sequence, how they come together to execute their curriculum is commendable. They have committed, talented staff. The quality and commitment to being a premier school in the area could draw excellent teachers and build on good things. Student 3, another student, and then some other things. Like when do we decide? What is the problem, and so forth. So even though I know that some of our stakeholders are saying, you know, they didn't do a good job in responding, I felt differently. I was very appreciative of the time they spent and the comments they made. Before I move on a minute, I will also clarify again that I am neutral on this. Some mornings I wake up this way, some mornings this way. So I'm not trying to persuade any board members about your own decision-making tonight at this table. You're not going to offend me, and again, I don't have a pony in the race. Number 3, a reminder to all of our board members that on our website we have a merger update area. That's where all of our notes go for the merger committees. We have 4 very robust merger committees. They're saying some great stuff. They're coming up with good questions, and all of you should be getting on there and seeing what they're thinking. I take some of my direction, thoughts, and ideas from the feedback that I'm getting from these committees. I continue to be impressed by them. When it started, everybody was against it, and they've most of them I think are still against it on some of the committees. But at least they're saying, well, if we do, then what do we need to know? So I think it's really neat to see how they're evolving. Again, neutral. Okay, and then survey. Let's get down to some business. I have 2 handouts. I want to warn our audience members, if you don't mind passing these out. Board members, I think, have seen it, to the audience members. On the back, you'll see the survey results. On the front, you'll see the actual survey. I think that some of our board members and myself were hoping that we would have a large group of people one way or the other so that it could kind of be a data point for our board members to make a decision on. As it turns out, we had, I think, how many? Almost 400 responses?
365.
365. Tremendous response in about a 24-hour period. And it's pretty much split down the middle. About half of our respondents said, yes, we'd like to, it's on the screen here, yes, we'd like to continue exploring it. That doesn't mean they are for it, they just want to continue exploring it. And then about half, just I think it was 45 to 40%, said, no, we need to stop the exploration, we've had enough. 15% are undecided. This changed a lot since the survey about 2-3 months ago. We've had about 87 respondents, and it was about a third against, a third for it, and about a third undecided. So we can see that our undecided window is really shrinking. I think one of the most important things as we all look at this screen is to know that we've got people that feel passionately, I think more, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's not a, what am I trying to say, Mandy? It's just not as, I guess I personally was hoping that it'd be 75 to 25, one way or the other. Like, okay, a bulk of. But I think it's important, whether you're for or against or neutral in the merger, to realize that there is a group that probably thinks differently than you. So that's one piece.
And as a board member, I was thinking whichever way we go on this, we're going to disappoint half of
Yeah.
the people who take the survey. It's hard. It's hard. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to our discussion tonight, but
Yeah.
it's interesting to see.
Yeah. So if you don't mind the audience for this is the last handout. It's a one-pager. This is for board members. I put together, it's a short one-page list of what I hope will lead our discussion tonight, and obviously I'll let Shelby facilitate the discussion. But I will just kind of read through it quickly. I know it's hard for those that might be listening from home. This is from me to board members. It's called what I call an options roadmap. Greetings. Last fall, we committed to exploring a merger with MSA. And during this time, we've gathered information from various sources. We've conducted 3 stakeholder surveys. This was the 3rd one. Organized merger committees. and I've continued to be impressed by the work they do. I personally have listened to stakeholders, and I know our board members have as well, in person, through emails, through staff meetings, through professional learning communities, is generate questions and share very important feelings regarding the work that we do here. One of the things that has become crystal clear to me is the bulleted items. Our stakeholders love our core knowledge, our focus on leadership and core virtues, beautiful facility, our diversity, and our staff members. They have also continually pointed out that they would like to see WLA develop a high school program and add extracurricular clubs and sports teams. I have a paragraph, meanwhile, myself and others, various service providers have also been meeting with experts in the areas of finance, bonding, mergers and acquisitions, busing, to name a few, as well as spoken to authorizers, representatives at MDE, listening to MSA board meetings, speaking to MSA staff, board members, and administrators. And at this point, I would say one of these four, I'm hoping the board can discuss these, add more. Number one would be, and some of these ideas, by the way, came from merger committee group notes that I have gone through, so some people might recognize some of their own ideas in here. But one is to develop that list of non-negotiables and say, MSA, here's where we're at, this, not just the three that went out with the survey, but, you know, a lengthy list, and see if they're still interested. Number two, this was also mentioned by Ryan Patrick. Thank you, Carly. Thank you, Ryan. Developing that side-by-side comparison. What will our high school launch look like if we don't merge versus? And that is something that I can put together for the board. Number three, table the merger discussions for 1 year. This came out of one of our merger committee groups. I'm not sure which one. It's pretty much quoted by whoever said, which was, table it for 1 year, implement the strengths from both schools, see how well the curriculum goes hand in hand, because if we get married, we don't want to get divorced, so let's make sure we've checked each other out pretty good ahead of time. And then the fourth one is end the exploration of merging, and just say we're going to focus on these other things instead. Finally, of course, WLA and MSA, we have a lot to do this time of year. We're getting programming and staffing ready for next year. So I'm really hoping that the board can choose one of these, which will give me my marching orders as to what you want me to prepare for the next meeting, or the things that I have on my list right now for the coming year: to review the fidelity of core knowledge K-8, strengthen our middle school, take a breath, a plan for grade 9, and ensure that we're moving forward with succession planning and making sure that we're all headed in the right direction for the needed support for this organization as it continues to grow. So with that, thank you all for your patience. I know that was lengthy, but I think let's talk about it.
Yep.
All right.
Anybody got anything to start with?
It's a lot.
The things that popped out to me right away, tabling the merger, to me feels like we're just going to be here again next year, and like we've already done the work, we need to just see it through. So for me, the idea of tabling it just says like we're just going to have all of this unrest and doubt and things for a whole year. I think it's important to remember that we are all in agreement that this is not a 2023-24 school year decision, that this is a 24-25 school year decision. I hope that everyone saw that on the survey. Like, it's one of our non-negotiables is we're not going to rush things and get this into by July 1st. That's just not reasonable for us. So I think tabling it then just puts us at rushing it next year. So I think whatever we decide to do, we need to make a decision one way or the other. If we keep looking into it, then we've got work to do over the next year to be ready. But knowing that this is not going to happen, the merger is not going to happen for next school year.
I
So,
think that puts a lot of, or I hope it puts a lot of people at ease, because that was one of my things as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be, where we go is going to be a combination of this, because
Yeah.
even that is kind of tabling it for next year.
Right.
Even though we'd still be doing some of the work over the next.
yeah, yeah.
I'll just kind of add my 2 cents. I do like the trajectory of WLA since, you know, its founding and kind of where we've gone. And just kind of seeing that trajectory, I have full confidence that we will get to that, you know, high school level, grade level that we want eventually. And I'm all for not rushing things. I think getting the high school merging it will probably be the best benefit for us. And to me, that's just getting it faster. Which not necessarily mean we're going to get the quality that we're looking for if we keep down the track that we're already moving towards. So that's how I kind of look at it on our end. And then looking at it from their end, you know, just getting a lot more information over the past month and a half or so, participating in a subcommittee meeting. I really just think that they don't have a lot of emotions attached to this merger. Except this whole school board is a new realm for me. I come from kind of business where it's not a lot of emotion attached, but after hearing, you know, working with different parents, obviously me having 2 kids here, I do look at it a little differently. And I really think that they're at a point where we're just the best option for them moving forward in their long-term plan. And to me, it just doesn't seem like there's going to be a healthy relationship if we enter it, kind of knowing what we know. Not to say that it wouldn't be successful, but I just personally wouldn't feel comfortable with entering that type of relationship unless both parties kind of had equal to gain. It looks like they have a lot more to gain in this than we do.
I'm going to jump in and say, you know, it's very, very exciting to me to think about building our own high school program. And I'm not going to be around forever. I guess none of us are, but that is very intriguing. So I like what you said about the trajectory. We will get there. I'm going to say something about what you said. I think putting it out, or Shelby, another year is just something that's then on the back of my mind for sure, and I'm sure many staff and stakeholders. You know, you got this going on. We're trying to get all this done, but there's this in the back of the mind. So I wonder if the other board members are ready to rule out that option. Some nodding.
Table it.
Number 3.
3 would be tabling, like, we're done talking about it this year. We'll talk about it next year for July 1 of
Yeah,
next
but it's
year.
still always there.
But it would be there.
I think
But if
we'd say we're moving, the number 3 to me means we're moving the decision out.
Yeah,
a year.
but ultimately, if we decided we did want to keep exploring it, no matter what, it's not for this coming school year, is what I'm hearing and what
Right,
are
right.
non-negotiable. So it's kind of, yeah.
I agree, 23, 24, no, we can't do it. I like the developing a list of non-negotiables and seeing if we're even needing to spend any more time or we don't want to date anymore. We're done. I mean, if they just want our building, no, build your own.
Let's just say, like, playing that out a little, because this is what I've been kind of going through in my mind. If we listed all of our non-negotiables, and let's just say they said yes to all of them, and came back to us, do you feel like your ultimate decision would change based on what they would say?
If, in my mind, if they came back and they would agree to all our non-negotiables, I'd want to move on to number 2 and see a side-by-side. We have the time to do that because we've agreed it's 24, 25.
Which I don't even know if that's a possibility for them, based on, I don't.
On their timelines.
Correct.
Because they were talking July 1 this year.
Yep.
If I remember their.
Yep.
For me. So it might just even.
That first non-negotiable may end it. Yeah.
Correct.
Yep. And I think we keep saying that, but I don't know that it's sunk in yet.
And I like MSA, it's not that I don't like MSA, I sent a kid there. We all have our own issues, but it's a good school.
Yes, it is.
They get a good education there.
But it might not even be, we are, or it sounds like I am not comfortable doing it for next year, and it sounds like other people are, but that might, for them, that might not even be a possibility.
Yep, might be the deal breaker.
excuse me. I've really, just in transparency, I've really been wrestling with this. Only because it is an enormous decision for this school and our kids' future. And I'm not trying to embellish. We have to keep that at the forefront of the decisions and our discussions when we work through this. So I came into this meeting like, let's say 48 hours ago, knowing what I was going to say, because I'm a prepper. This whole thing threw me off.
The survey?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too.
It was surprising.
It was surprising.
It doesn't change much for me currently. But I look at this and there's an onus on me to acknowledge this as a board member and a parent here, right? I mean, half of my parents here basically want it, the other half don't. The other half are, I don't know, right, neutral. So I'll just lay out kind of where I'm at in my thought process. First, the MSA board and the teachers and their admin, they're all made up of people just like us, all right? Yeah, there's issues going on, it's very apparent. I brought that up last meeting, the elephant in the room type of stuff going on. And I cannot get over, I can't in good faith, in any way that I try to unpack this, try to work through that. And so I just want to acknowledge that I'm not, when I move forward, I'm not picking on one person on their board or singling anybody out. Our house isn't perfect either. These are moms and dads and teachers and people, and so, we all go through some things, but here's where I'm at. We are at a fantastic place in time with WLA right now for just a snapshot.
Yep.
Okay? And so, it's really, gives me a lot of anxiety and stress to think that we have to take on what we've all witnessed in the last 3 board meetings from MSA. Kind of how I think about this is, let's just capture MSA board as kind of like a family, right? Which includes our kids, because there are students there, it affects our kids, right? And we take a look at the dysfunction and the petitions that have been happening and the way they communicate with each other and just the dysfunction that's going on. And we all know about this. We watched it, you know what I'm talking about. So I don't need to get into it. I look at that and I say, there's a family, right? We're considering taking them into our home, right, and being partners. From what I've seen with the way that they're conducting themselves and the communication and what has been said, that from the kids, the students, all the way up to mom and dad and everybody in between, frankly, I don't even know if I would invite them over for dinner at this point. Let alone talk about what room we're going to give them, talk about if we're going to add an addition onto the house, talk about if we're going to build a second house to house both families and work this whole thing out. I don't even know how we get past that. We're not perfect. I'm not perfect. My household isn't perfect. This household isn't perfect. But I can't get past just what has happened and us taking that on. If I was going to go into business with somebody, or let's just use relationships because the words have been thrown out today. Marriage, divorce, relationships, all relevant and it's a great descriptor. What's the first thing you do, right? You go out and see if there's chemistry, right? Things align, fireworks, sparks start happening. I can't get behind any of that, watching them. Like looking at them as a partner, I can't right now. Opportunity might be down the road, yeah, but even if that was to happen, working through a merger is going to be hard enough in itself. even if things align perfectly up front at the starting line, I've been through this. It's very, very tough. The Harvard statistics, right?
Yep.
Some people might say it's high. I don't care. It's the failure rate is still pretty high. MSA and WLA stakeholders and us, we're full of very intelligent people that could try to work through this, right? I don't know. I don't know how we can merge at this point based on what's going on in their house. And taking that on, we not only have to sort out a merger, we also inherit that as well, and we also need to sort that out. And who does that fall onto? We may be able to rummage through this, get in the trenches and dig through it, but how are the kids going to respond? How is it going to affect the teachers? I mean, if we're not going into this in a very smooth, what feels natural connection, and all these things that relationships and successful mergers start with, it just feels like we're trying to create something that's not really there right now. So that's why I'm wrestling with all of this. I see this statistics, it's like a 50-50 split, and quite frankly, I'm blown away. And, I have to respect the numbers, but I also have to say, how do you watch those meetings and say, I want my kid to be a part of that, right? Because that's what we're doing. It's our kids. And so I don't want my kid to be a part of that. And I'm not singling them out. I want to be clear. Okay, they're just like us, but they got some housework to do. And I don't know if I want to get alongside of them and do it for them and along with them. So that's where I'm at.
I think that's marvelous, and I'm glad you shared all that. I know it's hard, but I'm going to jump in again because we're just kind of speaking from our heart. So my business mind says, hey, that's great for this. I don't see any red flags. But when I walk into the building and they've got great people, great program, we love them. They need to know that. But there's just that little thing in me that's just like something doesn't click. And for me, I'm wondering if it's just not the best timing. No one would have merged with us 6 years ago when we had 3, whatever. It's just, maybe it's something that we can visit down 2-3 years. And those families that represent, half of our vote, 45% of our vote, I think that they would be very engaged in, let's start seeing what it takes to build a high school.
Yeah.
And we have a year to beef up our middle school and the list of things I talked about 20 minutes ago. And certainly we can revisit it years down the line. I personally just don't feel like the timing is there. And I know that might be shocking for people to hear, but you're talking your heart, so that's my heart. What do everyone else think? Because you're the board, I don't even get a vote.
I don't like what's going on with their board either, but I'm not ready to throw out the whole proposition based on behavior of their board. I've been on dysfunctional boards before, it happens. And we have a quality program for the most part. Yes, they've got problems. But I think we've done a lot of work so far, so I'm not ready to just say, the board, no, I'm not gonna play with them. I don't like them.
And I'm going to jump in and take some ownership too. I mean, a year ago, our board was in the same position they are. I made a decision at a board meeting to address a board member, and I didn't forewarn him, and I blindsided him, and I, am thankful beyond words that we have moved past that, and that he is so helpful now and is, providing advice and kind words, and I can't thank him enough for the work that he is putting into helping us make this decision. But I did the exact same thing a year ago that they did to their board member, and here I am now sitting as your board chair. So, people make mistakes. I think we can all own up to those mistakes and admit that sometimes we do things and it's hard, and we think that it's the right thing to do in the moment, and in reflection, maybe it is or isn't, and we all make those decisions and mistakes, and we move on and we grow and we learn. And I've worked, I hope, diligently to gain back the trust of the people that I offended, and am taking and learning from that and hearing voices and trying my best to represent those voices in our board now. So I think saying their board is dysfunctional, yep, they've got some issues, but we were just there. And so I don't think that looking at just their school board is the best way to move forward with what we could get out of this. So I think looking at 4 years ago, we started a middle school here, and it's been a struggle, and it's still a struggle. And if it takes another 2 years to get our middle school where we really, really want it, that's 6 years. Are we willing to say, okay, so we add freshmen, and then we add sophomores, that's another 6 years down the road before we can offer a full high school program, and what does that look like? And like you said, it's the quickest way would be to merge. Is it the most quality way? I don't know, but when we start to look at staffing decisions and things for moving into our own high school, and Kathy can put this side by side together for you guys to really be able to see what that looks like. But if you hire a high school math teacher, but we only have freshmen the first year, you're paying someone to teach, maybe 3 classes of math a day. And then do you offer a half-time contract? Are you going to be able to get teachers on a half-time contract? Probably not in the, environment that we're in the job market that we're in. So there are benefits. We know that MSA is a good school. We know they have work to do. We had work to do. We've been doing the work. Are they committed to it? We don't know. We haven't given them a chance yet. They've had a year since their investigative report. They have hopefully been putting in some of that work. Do we dig into that more and see what have they done since in the last year? In conversations, someone had said they're removing their calculus graduation requirement. That was a huge concern for us. We know that not all of our kids are going to be at that level in high school, but does that mean if they're willing to if they've already started the process of removing that, and if they're already looking at their own issues and their own problems and reflecting, do we continue to say, yep, you guys are working on growing, we're working on growing, is there a possibility that we grow together? I don't know. I just don't want everything to be based on their board, I guess is my biggest point in that, because I was that guy a year ago, so.
Yeah, and I hear you guys, and I acknowledge it, yeah.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter is, with that being said, the fact of the matter is, for the most part, they're the decision makers, right? And we still have to do business with them. Mm-hmm. And so, and I'm just speaking for the board here. If we start trying to work through and tackle this stuff, we still inherit what they currently have going on. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying we haven't been in that spot, or people around this table have been in that spot sometime in their professional or even personal life. We all have, but they're still there, and it's still a fact, and it's still a thing that we have to work through. And so, and I'm thinking out loud while I'm talking, so so how long do we do this for then?
Yeah, that's what I think we need to decide.
I mean, everybody wants to, not everybody, that's scratch that. That's a terrible way to start a comment. So the table the merger discussions for 1 year thing, right? I'm not endorsing that at all. I'm just saying, for example, so what are we sitting and waiting for them to work out their, issues within the board? And in the meantime, all of ours, not all of them, but, a lot of our stakeholders, this is constantly on our minds, and it's constantly looming, right? It just feels like really bad timing. And in my opinion, this is a great trait of me and probably a fault. I'm a doer, and so for me, I'm I want to pivot right now, and I want to focus all of our energy and all of the resources and the intelligence and the love that our family has, that we have collectively, and focus on us. Because through this, we have unearthed a lot of things that we can get better at as a school. Through conversations, through forums, through whatever. Some people brought up some really good points that we can do better at and what we can work on to better ourselves. You know, grow our, you know, middle school program, start talking, working towards a high school program. But we can't do that and manage the merger at the same time. So at some point here, we're gonna have to pivot. And unfortunately, as much as I would love to have this be a streamlined everything work out great, I don't know how much time we wait for them to get in order. And it's unfortunate, again, they're mom and dads and teachers and husbands and wives just like us. I get it, and I totally get it. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, we gotta make a decision at some point.
Yep.
And unfortunately, that's just kind of where they're at. And how much longer do we wait? Because every single day that we wait, there's just more and more stress on everybody.
Yep.
Have we decided
for sure.
or talked at all about board makeup?
Yeah.
No, we have talked.
Yeah, we talked about, there was something in one of the things that was released about how like the people that were expiring from our board, we could merge our boards pretty well, but that was when there was a discussion for next year. And now that it's not a discussion, I mean, we have to renew 3 of our people. We aren't gonna wait a year to do all of that.
At one point, we did mention it with Craig Kepler's a lawyer that we often use for these kind of transactions, or a lot of different transactions, not these kinds. We've never done this, but and he mentioned that what he often sees is just like a big board, like that. When a merger happens, you have a larger size board that probably isn't in accordance necessarily with your bylaws, but you get kind of some leeway as you're kind of whittling it down to a smaller board. So that is one idea. So, I mean, we have had some conversations. Has there been any decisions made? No, but there's been conversations.
Yeah, but that's getting in the weeds again. You know, right now we've got a decision. Do we want to look at one of these 4? Do we have something new to put on the table? What are the marching orders? Because we don't want to talk.
So many people have spent so much energy on this, and I feel like we all agree, like, I don't even think it is possible to merge for next year, and I feel like they need a solution for next year. And for me, I like, you have your thing you can't get over, and I'm like, I don't even think this is something we could even talk about anymore, because I don't think.
Is there a deadline? Can anybody confirm their deadline?
No. The admin, and I'm not sure if the board agrees, it seems like they do, but I know their executive director, Randy, is saying we really need to push this through. And I think Kate also, she's their high school principal, are saying we need to push this through by July 1st this year. But I talked to our bonding guy, Bruce Sorensen with Baird, again yesterday, and I said, well, if this and this and this and this and this, and that looks alone like a 6 to 8 week process if it goes smoothly. It's not reasonable. It's not reasonable. So I think what you're saying, Natalie, is our first step is, are you guys able to wait a year? Because otherwise it's a moot point. If they feel like they don't want to hold up their bonding and their own physical expansion decisions, because they would be on hold for another year. If they don't feel that they want to do that, okay, we're sorry because we don't want to go this July.
Well,
Is that what you're
it's kind of
saying?
hard to develop a
Yes.
list of non-negotiables.
Yeah.
So then we're on number 1.
That would be one of them.
I mean, I just don't think timeline-wise, like, all the things that we've talked about in the weeds, you can't work that out by July 1 for people to feel comfortable in the seventh market.
Yeah.
Correct.
But we know our non-negotiables.
Yeah,
pretty much.
and
And we can send that over.
I had kind of hoped in the letter that they would have had a conversation like this amongst themselves. Because in the letter, we did ask, like, if it's not now, is it worth it for you guys? And I feel like they missed out on the conversation that we're having right now. And so I think if we make a clear list of non-negotiables and we start there with, first off, this isn't happening this year. It's a next year process. Second off, we are going to have K-5 at this address.
I think we need to also put the ball in their court and say you need to spend your energy on different things because we've done the work, but they need to do their work. Because I feel like so many parents, the subcommittees, everybody's spending all this time, and
But they have committees.
They have committees too.
Yeah. But even their response letter and just where it's I don't want to waste anybody's time.
Yeah.
You know,
If we're not
yeah.
on the same page.
So it sounds like the board is headed towards, let's get number one, let's get our list of non-negotiables and see if we're in business or not.
Can they even discuss, yeah, and like, can they even have an open discussion about the non-negotiables?
Right.
That we've already kind of asked about them.
I think we can
Give us more
ask.
Feedback on
Yeah.
how do they communicate
Mhm.
that and maybe.
Can they have a special meeting?
Yeah,
If
can we give
ask
them a
to say
deadline
they
and
have
say,
a
please?
Special meeting?
Yeah. Because we'd like to hear back from you by this date. I don't want to wait another month for them to have a board meeting and then us.
I think at the top of the list, they have to identify a timeline, a hard date
Mm-hmm.
that they need to know by.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
And I think in the meantime, I mean, we need to explore what growth looks like for us, and, you know, do we, yep, yep. And do we want to, you know, with the YMCA program, possibly bringing in a pre-K, like, that's a huge step for us. That's a huge, you know, that feeds into our kindergarten program, and so that's huge, and I think we definitely want to put some energy and focus into that, and, you know.
I do think a non-negotiable could also be retraining or something along the lines of, if we obviously are so uncomfortable with how they function, how can we make that a non-negotiable for us? You know,
They
even
need
though
some
they
board training.
did just get some
Mediation.
training.
Okay, I'm going to propose that Shelby and I work together to develop that list of non-negotiables, and I have a lot from the merger
Yeah,
committees. We
the
have a
merger
lot of
committee
input, and
has
I
put
think
in
they're.
so much work.
So I think we'll go there, we'll give them a deadline, we'll say, please hold a special meeting if need be, we'd like to hear back from you by tax day, that's April 15th, I think that's, I know we haven't heard from you, Mandy, or Jolene very much in this meeting, but I think at the same time that I will be developing number 2, the side-by-side comparison, so that we have that then when we meet.
On the 44%, which is the majority that said yes, I personally haven't heard much from that group at all. And so I would like to try to figure out how we can create a space for them to explain to us why
Yeah.
they would like to. Because I don't think I've talked to one person who's like, yeah, I would love that. And I'm not, I want to listen to these people, because I might be missing the mark here, and I might be focusing on things that, or missing the mark on some things that are important, or, because I mean, this data is just really throwing me off here, so I would like to somehow figure out a way that we can create a space for these people to, the people that say yes, to really express themselves as to why.
I mean, we can even ask anybody who's listening to, if you are very pro-merger, please email the board as a whole.
Yeah.
Because that's an easy way to,
Yep.
if you can't come.
Yeah, I was gonna make a comment about the data. Like, I've looked at data my whole life, so
Yeah.
I'm always skeptical about data in general.
Right.
But I think we're kind of asking two different questions in the data. Like, the yes is asking, should we continue?
To explore.
No, yeah, continue to explore. The no is saying that
To
we don't
stop.
want to do it. So
Correct.
in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the people that said no are way more in tune to what's going on, are listening to these MSA meetings, are participating in all, like, they're way more in tune because they have us, they're saying no. Because I was definitely in the green at first. I'm like, yeah, let's explore this. It sounds like a good idea. But I didn't have a lot of information to kind of make me sway the other way until I start getting a lot more involved. So, and this is a very polarizing, subject as it is. I kind of look at like the presidential election. Some people just go in, they're going to vote Democrat, Republican, regardless. They don't know what this candidate is really going to do for them and their families. Like, they just know I vote blue or I vote red. So I'm trying to take all of that into consideration as I look at this data and not let the data necessarily just completely just throw me off track of kind of what I've been listening to and hearing personally.
I wondered if we would have different results if we would have phrased a question or sent an additional question that would say something like, the one thing that sticks out to me from all this is it seemed people want high school. I think for a while we thought,
Yeah,
people
we
really
didn't
want
know.
high
We
school.
didn't know.
We weren't sure, but I had not had a single person come to me and say, I don't want to merge because I don't want a high school. No one has said that. So I think people want high school. So I think it might be interesting to see if we said, would you rather add grades 9 through 12 through merger with MSA, or grow grades 9 through 12.
Organically.
And I just
Yeah.
wonder if it would
Yeah.
be different,
I
because
think they need all the information in the side by side, 'cause like,
Side
I
by
don't
side.
know
Right.
those things of the
Yeah.
Right.
freshman math teacher, you know, like.
Yep.
Because I feel like parents would be like, oh yeah, I want us to grow our own, but that actually means
Mm-hmm.
a lot more
There are-
things than it.
Yeah.
for sure.
And
It's
I-
not turnkey, but I don't know that either are turnkey. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Yep, yep.
merging is hard too.
Yeah.
Yeah, change is hard.
And I'm just gonna echo what you said, and that's the whole reason, for me, the whole reason why I want to create a space for them. Yeah, emailing us would be fantastic, or, you know, I don't know how much more we can go beyond that to create a space for these people. I just want to make sure that we get as much input as possible as the board. And through doing that, you know, we would be able to vet those that, you know, just by asking the questions, you know,
Yep.
you'd be able to tell if they've really been
Right.
tuned or plugged in.
Right.
You know, I respect everybody's opinion, let that be clear. I hope everybody does their homework when you try to have a voice into this, because again, the stakes are really high here.
Yep.
So
Yep.
if you haven't watched their board meetings, do it. If you haven't clicked on our website and done, you know, the merger stuff and on theirs, policies, click on it and do it. I know we're all short on time, but
Yep.
as a parent, I don't know how much higher stakes we get here when it
Yeah.
comes to our kids' future. So,
Yeah.
Okay, so sounds like we got three things going on. We're going to develop the non-negotiable. Then we're going to develop, so I'm going to be developing the side-by-side, and then we're going to do something like Mandy said. We're going to get a different kind of survey out, grow a high school program on your own or through a merger, something really tight.
Yep.
But I think that
That's
comes up
definitive.
after the side-by-side.
Yeah.
Here's the side-by-side, then, now what do you think?
Here's the information you need, like Ryan
Yep.
suggested in his comment. Like, here's the information that we need to provide for you to make an informed, factual decision. Yeah.
But they need to get back to us on the timeline pretty
Yes.
quick here as well.
what do you guys think would be reasonable for that?
For which?
Timeline for that?
Kathy said April 15th.
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, yep. Jolene, you've been quiet.
I'm Switzerland. I'm the 15%.
Okay.
I see it both ways.
Yep.
I got the preacher over here, awesome job. And I've got very, very passionate parents out there, awesome. And it's a lot. And I'm still not convinced either way.
Does that mean that we would call a special meeting to discuss their answers, or I'm just looking at the calendar? I just don't
next
want to
one.
make them meet and then have us, I don't know.
Well, we'd have to meet after that, but I think the first thing it would be Shelby will have to talk to Mr. Ellingson and say, are you guys willing to have a special meeting to answer this question for us? It might just be a 20-minute question. And if they're saying, we have to merge this July, then, okay, thank you, we wish you the best.
Yeah,
but
we're done.
we can't do that. Then it's done.
What if they say no to a special meeting?
Then it's done.
It's done.
Then it would be done, because we just
Just so
can't
we
go in
can say
another
it out
month.
loud.
Yeah, if they're not even willing to entertain a conversation, then there is no conversation.
And again, it's a great school, it's great, everybody.
And it doesn't mean.
It just
that,
might
like,
not be
in
good
2
timing,
years,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, while we are working on our middle school or pre-K,
Mhm.
it's readdressed.
Yep.
But if we're going 2-3 years down the road, why would we, and developing our own program, why at that point would we
Well, I
even
think-
entertain?
I mean, that would be a whole other discussion, but you know, we still need to build our middle school so that we have kids to go into a high school.
Yeah.
And pre-K is a whole other ballgame too, so
Yeah.
there's avenues for us to take in the next few years. that
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
aren't
And
high school.
if we decide a merger isn't for us, can we still continue a conversation to have a pathway for our students to go to their school? Because in talking to fifth graders, there's still quite a few that are going to go there next year. And if there's an open pathway for them to get in there, I think that would be a nice avenue for them to grow their
There
students
isn't.
as well.
It's a different, as long as it's a different school, they have to go into the lottery.
The
So there's no, okay. Mandy?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm taking over your job, I'm
Yes,
just,
no?
Rein us in, Shelby.
Yeah,
yep.
April 15th is 3 weeks.
Oh, that's plenty of
that's
time.
lots of time. Right, because
Yep.
March is a long
So we
one.
get the side-by-side, we get the question out to them, and then we get the survey queued up for when the side-by-side's ready to present.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion around merger?
And maybe you had said, like, maybe we should hold a special meeting, but I wouldn't think we would need to, because it would be pushed out a whole year.
Because why?
Well, because there wouldn't be like a rush
Right.
necessarily for us to respond.
Right. So if they hold a special meeting and they say, yes, we agree to all of these, we don't need to hold another special meeting. We can just address it at our next board meeting because there's no deadline that we need to meet.
Unless they want me to answer.
Yeah, if they have questions back and they say, yep, okay, we will, if this, then, yeah.
In theory, they should give us some non-negotiables.
Right.
Right.
Do what they want to do.
Right.
I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we ratify these two things, or do we wait?
We can.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I think we're at. Sorry.
That stuck out to me. Can we request non-negotiables from them? I think that would be important too. So
Yep.
they requested they provide us with a list of non-negotiables with their response.
Mhm.
during the special
Because they
meeting.
might agree to everything we say, but there are other things that we don't know.
Yeah,
That way we,
Make us say.
tackle it all at once.
we have to see as much of their hand as possible here.
Yeah.
So,
Do we, who's
But are we
creating a list
playing
of
poker
non-
here? We don't see their hand and they don't see our hand until we switch?
No.
I mean,
I hope not.
We're creating the
I don't think
list.
that's a good marriage. We're talking.
If any board members,
So, like, would you include homework requirement as that's
a what?
something I hear over and over again.
The what?
Is it like the homework requirement, hours of homework requirement? Or
I don't think that's one of, uniforms, homework requirement, that's the stuff later. If we can't agree on the big brush strokes, we're not spending time on those other things.
I was just trying to think of the things that are beyond the big brush strokes, the things that I hear over and over again from our parent community as concerns.
Did you have in your survey, you had facilities, the date,
Curriculum,
curriculum. There's 4 of them. So then MSA would just use their curriculum, which we don't have to.
Right.
but I would say that if any board members have a mini list of negotiables or stakeholders want to feed their non-negotiables to Second Bend to any of you, just get them to us in a open meeting law restriction format. And I will say this to all stakeholders that might be listening. When you send something to the entire board of directors, none of them can answer. I can answer, and that's one of the additional 250 emails I get on a daily basis. I don't know about the rest of you, but a normal day for me is about that. So, but I think if a stakeholder wants to approach a specific, they want to write to you, hey, here's non-negotiables from me personally or from my merger group or whatever, that's more easily managed. You can interact then with your individual board members, which kind of makes it easier for everyone, I think. And then we'll generate that list as it all comes to a head for us.
The merger committees have been talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, they've got
a
great
lot.
lists.
Yeah.
They've got great lists, yeah.
Yeah,
So I assume
that's what we'll
kinda what I think
base
too,
it
is
off
that you
of.
Take it from
Yeah.
that list.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
Fishing for a little. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Ben Broderick, you had a question?
Mandy nailed it. The
All right.
lists have already been generated inside of those merger committees.
Yeah.
Of suggested non-negotiables.
Yep.
So then we'll get their response.
how do you negotiate which are big brush strokes and little brush strokes and homework's a big idea for someone, but not for someone else.
Well, we could spend a lot of time
How do
on,
you rank that?
Well, the subcommittees.
subcommittees can help with that, but,
Well, and we looked at our homework policy, didn't we? And it wasn't.
yeah, it was very similar.
Yeah.
Is
Our
it similar?
guideline.
Did you say it was similar or just?
Yeah,
looked at it?
similar. When you look at the policies, it's similar when they get to those higher grades.
Yeah, like our own
Our
policy.
recommendation was 10 minutes per grade.
Yeah.
So first grade would be 10
10
minutes,
minutes.
but then obviously it would go up, so by the time you got to
90.
ninth grade, which we don't have, so I don't know that we.
Well, including
Right.
kindergarten, that's 90 minutes, that's an hour and a half a day.
Yeah.
Mr.
Our own
Broderick?
policy.
But can the board maybe discuss or just state again, who's generating the final list of non-negotiables? And kind of how that kind of goes together? Because if you're not
Yep.
going to do an additional meeting where all of you are talking over these lists, just how are we going to generate that?
Can I make a recommendation?
Yeah.
What if you got the merger committee chairs with the
To
two of
join
you?
us.
Yep.
So you wouldn't have, and then you guys could
Great idea.
compile their list
Great idea.
and get their
Mhm.
input to
Yep.
figure out what's the most important things to put on the list.
Yep, I like that a lot.
Yep. Merger committee leaders will communicate with us.
Yep, I'm in.
But I do think that if anyone out there does have some things that, they can,
When are we gonna send this to them? Like in a week? So they have 2 weeks?
I would hope that we would have it, if we're gonna try and meet with those leaders, I mean, obviously, we can't just say, hey, let's all meet tomorrow. But I would say by next week,
I'd say
like
by
a week
next
from today,
Wednesday.
yeah.
I think a week from Wednesday, or a week
A
from
week
today.
from
What's
today.
Wednesday? What's the date? April Fool's Day?
29th. The 30th would be next Thursday, so we'll get it sent by the 30th. And then they have 2 weeks. They'll have 15 days.
I think this is a good plan.
Yep.
Because then I think that this board will be able to make a decision by our April board meeting, if not sooner, in a special meeting of what we're going to do.
Okay, sorry, I'm just throwing this out there.
Yeah.
Their board meeting is scheduled before ours anyway.
Mhm.
So if we're not gonna discuss what they send back to us until our board meeting, do we care if they're meeting on the 15th or the 23rd?
Is there's the 24th?
Mhm.
I personally don't care as long as they actually can discuss it and we're able to listen to that.
So ours is the 27th, so ours is the 24th. I guess that depends on if we're asking them for a list of non-negotiables also, like, do we want to be able to have time to discuss that at a special meeting amongst ourselves before we make a decision, or at least to have that information more than 2 days before we have to make a decision? So I don't know.
I think just based on how big this is, we should just have a meeting. I mean, 2 weeks is plenty of time. So this is a big decision. So
And I think it focuses
maybe
them
have a
more.
special meeting the night before their board meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're here, it's a really big decision, it's really big
Yeah.
deal, so I think a meeting is, it's not that tall of an ask.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with them being
Yep.
Yeah.
here anyway.
And then we
Yeah.
would just
You're-
get a response and
Don't
we
have to
would
go
talk
far.
about their non-negotiables that are already.
Yeah, 'cause then that would be
Then we
2
would be
weeks.
able- We would still have all
Yep.
our information.
Yep.
To make a decision.
Right.
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
Yep.
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 And they too, they want to move forward with their own
Yeah,
plans. If this is
Yeah.
not the best timing, then, both schools are going to wish each other the best success, and maybe it's revisited in the future, maybe it's not, but,
And that gives them the opportunity then, if they say like, nope, we're done, then at their next board meeting, they can start to figure out what they need to do.
Yeah.
So versus making that decision and then having to wait a whole nother month again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, no, that's good.
All right.
good work, board, I know that was hard.
All right, so moving on. You want to do that now?
Yeah, I would just like to ask the board, or remind the board, we talked about it during the director's report, if the board could ratify April Huntington and Ann Polachek's contracts. One is for a paraprofessional and one is for a substitute teacher. Would anyone like to
I'll
make a motion?
to ratify the contracts for
And we'll second.
April, I'm sorry. where am I
April
looking?
Huntington, yellow.
Oh, April Huntington and Ann Polachek?
I will second that.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Abstentions, motion carries. Okay. Board communication, future items. I think we kind of just got all that out there. So we will, Kathy and I will work with the committee chairs and get it rolling.
And I'll have some
So,
election stuff, dates and such at the next board meeting.
Yep.
And I can help with election or anything like.
Stephanie Ryan.
I'll help with that.
No, I mean-
I want to thank the
It's
audience
so
members
funny,
again.
it's not even that much work.
No.
But it's good to have a team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do want to thank everyone that comes week after week and gives their input, and the emails that we receive with information and thoughts, and I mean, it gets us all thinking about things that we need to be thinking about and keeping it in the forefront of our minds. So honestly, thank you guys. And like, I'm blown away by the positive things that you guys have been saying about us. And I appreciate it so much because it's not easy to make these decisions, and it's not easy to be in the public eye having to have these conversations. Like, it is tough. And so I just really do appreciate your guys' support and the positive things that you guys have said about our school and our community and our people and us as a board. It does mean a lot. So thank you all very much.
Stay engaged, please.
Yep.
Makes us
Okay.
better.
Let's go home.
All right, the best one. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. Abstentions, motion carries. We will see you all back here Thursday, April 27th at 5:30 p.m.
All right.
Thanks, Barry.
We have to kind of hide my mess. I need one of those pencils.